Alrighty. Hey, everybody. Welcome to this week's version of the Security Working Group meeting. Joe is in a meeting that's running over, so I will be the coordinator today. Marco, welcome. I'm glad you could make it. I don't know what time it is there.
Hi, thank you. It's around 12 here.
Oh my
12 a.m.
goodness.
It's okay, not that bad.
Well, so we have a fairly open agenda today. I added a couple of things I wanted to chat about, but would you like to do you have some questions you would like to discuss before we talk about that?
I can give a bit of introduction of why I'm here, maybe.
Yeah, please do.
That's
Yeah.
okay. So hello guys. My name is Marco. I'm from Open Robotics, and I'm working in the Singapore office. And here we're working in making basically fleet manager. So we're working on an open version. It's basically a manager of fleet managers, and it's based on ROS. And we're now working on getting some security into it. And yeah, I'm just joining to see if I can understand a bit of the state of the um, security in ROS. That's mostly why I'm here.
Can you I just out of personal curiosity, can you tell us some more about this fleet management system? It's going to be open source, is that right?
Oh, it's open source already. There was a talk in ROSCon last year. There was a few talks about
Oh,
it.
right. Okay.
Main keynote by Morgan at some point, and we're mainly working with hospitals right now. So we're doing like fleet management, like robot fleet management at hospitals, but also working with airports, and we hopefully make it usable for other environments.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay. I'm familiar with that project. I just didn't put two and two together. So that makes more sense. Thank you. So to give you kind of a current state of things in security, we do it sounds like you've got encryption working properly, yes? But
Yeah, that's right.
you ran into some challenges with access control?
Um, well, I spend a fair amount of time. I'm still like struggling with maybe writing down the policy XMLs and then trying to figure out. I don't know much yet about the DDS layer, and I guess that's somehow important to understand the whole security in ROS.
Yeah, that is kind of it. ROS2 being built on top of DDS makes the security story possible, but it also, the abstraction is not helpful in understanding how that whole thing fits together. So you're in good company.
Okay.
So yeah, security works at the DDS participant level, which is not. It used to be one-to-one with nodes, and now it's not, which can be a little bit confusing. You can have multiple nodes sharing the same participant, and that means that all your security artifacts need to be shared among those nodes as well. And so your access control policy needs to be a conglomeration of your nodes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I see. I've seen there's a bit of challenges on this mapping.
Yeah, I think if are you writing these not the permissions, but are you writing the policies by hand?
Yeah, that's what I'm currently doing.
Ruffin, I can't remember. Did we end up having to disable the generator? I'm trying to remember what we did. There was something we had to disable. Is the generator working or not?
So the generator is working. It's just very verbose. I might encourage you to take a look at the Turtlebot security demo, Turtlebot 3 security demo we have on I can drop a link into it in a bit. But basically, what I've done there is sort of take the Turtlebot stack, apply our auto-generating tool, which basically just takes a snapshot of the computation graph and then generates the policy set in a single context for those permissions or enclave. And then I have some commits that kind of show my progress and how I maybe like simplify that in using the policy import abstractions. Like in XML, you can reference something to include it, and that significantly simplifies the policy just to the topics rather than all the subsystem DDS topics that ROS nodes inherently need that are like common among all nodes. I imagine that's, you probably need to go through a similar process of taking the snapshot, condensing the policy to what you minimally required at runtime, and then go expanding from there if you end up adding additional features or services.
And that won't cover any sort of dynamic behavior where you create a new topic on the fly that the generator didn't capture. But it will get you a lot further than having to write the thing by hand.
Yeah, we're working towards something where we can do logging, so we can capture ephemeral graph exchanges. Sometimes like you might instantiate a action client temporally, like a one-off thing, and then destroy it. So if that wasn't captured at the moment of the snapshot, then you didn't see it. Whereas if we could record these log events, then we'd be much more capable to audit all these actions over time.
Yeah, nice. That sounds very interesting. Could you drop the link of the Turtlebot demo so I can have a look?
Bot 3 security.
While he's finding the link, Marco, what kind of timeline are you looking at here? Is this sort of an ASAP thing, or is it just something you converge once you've got it?
Well, it's something that we need to enable sometime soon. But I mean, we have let me see. We would have at least a few months. So we have different stages of the project. So we're doing a project now that is focused on research and is focused on the hospital. We're also doing on the side project on the airport, and then we're planning also to do to have some deployment projects. So I guess until we get to those deployment projects, it's not very critical. But we just, I think it's something that we should have been working maybe a bit before. But I guess we still have time to get working on it.
The reason I ask is you and I sort of briefly discussed this NoDL thing that Ted has been working on, which is the integration into the launch ROS2's launch system. That is, we have the code. I think we ran into one refactor that Ivan made. Actually, Ted, Marco might actually know the answer to our question. The ROS2 launch system recently got rid of assuming that if a namespace isn't specified, then it's the root. And we're not sure why. Do you? Do you know?
Not really.
Are you saying if the node is left with ambiguous, like it doesn't prefix with a root slash, it default by root?
No. Well, so if it wasn't, Ted, you might want to jump in here. I'm speaking a little bit out of turn, but I believe if it wasn't specified, originally ROS2 launch just assumed it was a slash, right? And now it's not doing that anymore. Ted.
Yeah. So you're familiar with the templated name, like the final node name that a node has as like a property?
Yeah.
Yeah, so at some point, like 2 months ago, on top of having node name unspecified, they also added a new templated part that was node namespace unspecified. And yeah, now the final node name always has node namespace unspecified unless a specific namespace push or namespace argument was passed.
Whoa.
It makes it hard to actually find the enclave.
I'm saying, but like, if you start up a node and you left the node namespace unspecified, but you had parameters, what ROS topic mapping does it actually attach to at runtime? Are you saying?
Eventually, it goes the way it was used to. You know, the node will still get placed in the root namespace with whatever name it's specified in code, but launch for some reason
Oh,
has the
so you're saying the final result hasn't changed, but the
But it got
intermediate
pushed down the
contact,
stack.
yeah, is lost, and
Yep.
I guess launch thought they would abstract away and leave more of it to the RCL to figure out what to do.
Yeah, and there's the little bit of logging logic that if the node namespace is fully specified, it prints out that there is now X many nodes with this exact name. And because of that, or because of this change to node namespace unspecified, in order to have a fully defined node, you also need to have passed in the namespace now, which is strange and seems to imply to me that, if you didn't specify the namespace, they're explicitly removing the assumption that the node name is fully constrained.
Well, anyway, I don't want to derail our conversation too far. The point of my bringing that up is that we have code written. We've rewritten it to continue making the assumption that used to be there, but it was removed for a reason, and we want to make sure we understand what that is. So we've got an email out to Yvonne to understand that a bit more. But if you're interested in testing that branch out, we do have it, Marco, and that will at least get you to the encryption stage using NoDL, as opposed to having to manage all your key material on your own.
I think I'm fine managing the key material for now, and I guess we're gonna need access control.
Mhm.
So I think for now it's fine. I think it will be okay for us to, but I'm happy to test if you guys want any of the
If you're
new
up
features or
for it,
whatever.
I understand that you have a schedule that you're going to need to stick to, but having an actual use case for this would be super helpful. So if you don't mind testing this out,
Sure.
that would be amazing.
Yeah, no problem. Just drop
Marco,
me. Yeah.
are you on our element or matrix channel?
Oh, not yet. I saw it, but I didn't join. Yeah, I'll join the channel.
I'm gonna paste the link for you here on their
Hmm.
security working group room.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, well, Marco, as you need any, please do take a look at the Turtlebot. Ruffin, did you find the link for that?
Yep.
Okay. Please do take a look at that, and any other questions, please feel free to ping us in Matrix, or if you want to have an ad hoc meeting, we're always up for that as well.
Sure. Thanks. Hello.
Yeah. All right. So the next thing I want to talk about was this global parameter events. This is something that Mikhail noticed happening in more the rest of ROS2 and ended up making a pull request that Ruffin ended up raising a flag on rightly, about the risk of adding more topics to the global namespace, especially ones that are full duplex like this.
Preach.
Yeah, not trying to preach. I want to make sure that I fully understand what this thing does, and make sure that the others understand what's going on here as well. And Ruffin, I'm going to lean on you here. This parameter events thing, my understanding of it is that every time a parameter is changed or a new one is made, etc., that's the type of thing that, like, basically notifications are sent along this thing, right? And this happens from a node, which means every time a node changes a parameter, it needs to be able to write to this thing. And anyone who's interested in those changes needs to be able to read from this thing. And it's only one topic, which means any parameter changes for any node in the entire system ends up being available here, which is a fairly significant leak. Do I understand that correctly so far?
Mhm.
If what was this? So it used to be one parameter event topic per namespace. But how was that actually used in practice? Did everything in that namespace then put the events onto this topic? And then if something wanted to listen to all of them, they had to actually subscribe to all of them?
So I think parameters are kind of they have a long history. In ROS1, ROS1 had parameters, but nodes, right? There was a parameter server, and that was sort of bundled into the ROS master, the ROS core. It's basically a key value store that was where the key could also include namespaces. And that was really hard to secure in SROS1, basically having some complicated sanitization logic where it would check the credentials of the node to see if it had read and write access to this particular key value or whether it had access to the namespace of those keys. And there was some collision in that sometimes you might have a key of a parameter and the key of a. Sometimes it was ambiguous on whether the namespacing within a node collided with the namespacing of a node. Different.
Mm-hmm.
So there are all these really complicated logic. In ROS2, we decided we had the every node like host its own parameter interface, and that's the way you would connect to the node directly if you want to read, write, or list parameters. And those were the subsystem level parameter services are for. One particular common use case for parameters, like in like every day, would be like sim time. So regardless of whether your node actually used added any parameters, you likely would pay attention to the sim time so it could set the clock appropriately.
Yeah, fair enough.
Depending on whether you're using Gazebo or a real life robot. And usually you set that kind of globally, like in ROS1, you would just set that maybe at the top of your launch file. So you could easily switch between the two. And that would propagate through all the nodes. And similarly, I think that would be a parameter. I'm not exactly sure what the current state is. Like there was a push to make that easier to do by having a global parameter server, like a dedicated node that just, that's all it did. That just hosted parameters that other nodes could read and write to.
Right, I've seen that API.
Yeah, to enable that kind of convenience of this global sim time control. I think those aren't too bad in that if it was just everyone had read access, only had read access, and you had one node that it wouldn't necessarily need write access. It would because it was a parameter that it owned.
Well,
it doesn't
and
call
this
it
parameter server
right.
would end up hosting things that were explicitly global, right? I mean,
Yeah. So you only have one node that would own the parameter. No one, even including that node, would necessarily have write access to the global parameter namespace, and all would be fine. The issue, I think there was a bit where there's some caveat of the API to change a parameter that you owned, you also needed to have write access, because I think it was the way you changed the node in the RCL was that you use the set parameter service on yourself. And that is what I think also inherently required that every node have read and write permissions, or it had both server and client permissions for its node services, which I think is an additional, it's somewhat related here in that it's an excessive permission set.
yeah, agreed.
Where I think every node is allowed to maybe have client permissions for its own node services, but does it really need server access if it already owns the? See that requirement of using the set parameter API over DDS on itself, I think, is unnecessary and leads to excessive permissions. But the story on why like this wasn't an issue before, I'm not quite sure on. Yeah, because previously the parameter services was this parameter events topic specifically was within I think the namespace of the node, maybe not necessarily a private name.
I think that's right. And then if multiple nodes shared a namespace, they ended up using the same one. That was my understanding, which seems kind of fun.
Yeah, and I think that may have not caught very many people because maybe a lot of people just run nodes without namespaces, and so the default
So in reality,
was all,
it ended up being the
yeah,
same.
everything was server root.
So let's say we moved to making this private. I mean, various people have expressed the sentiment that there's really no strong feelings here, but they could have gone either way. This ended up being a little bit easier, it sounds like. But let's say we did make it private to each individual node. Does that mean that a given node that wants to listen to another node's parameter changes would actually need to know let me try this again. A given node that wants to figure out a parameter change would need to understand the node that it owned it and subscribe specifically to those?
Yeah, the if like with Tully's suggestion, you know, if we on the discourse thread, if we made the parameter events private, we could, and you wanted to listen to parameters of arbitrary namespaces, you might have some kind of aggregator approach where maybe this aggregator is just like ROS out, where listening to for all these upcoming parameter events and then consolidating in them, and then everyone just subscribes to the consolidated result. I think that's.
But at least then you're actually making the decision to do that, you know.
A question I had is if I have node foo bar is the node name, foo is the namespace, and the node foo bar has a topic, has a parameter /baz. Is that allowed, or does it have, or does it have? It can only contain parameters foo bar baz.
It's a good question. I don't know off the top of my head.
So I was wondering if if there was a restriction on parameters, you could the parameter events topic would only contain parameters.
Actual global parameters.
If the parameter events topic, for whatever namespace it was located, only contained parameters that was within that namespace.
That would sound similar to, well, it would sound similar to what was there, assuming we understand what that was.
So that in a sense, there might be multiple parameter level topics within the graph, but under different namespaces. And then you could allow every node to have read access to the global parameter events topic and a specific configuration or administration tool to, or a central node parameter server to have write or set, client access to that parameter events topic. But
if we don't have that today, then individual nodes would also need write access to this, right? Which I think is the current issue.
I'm just wondering, like, what are the use cases and where we every node would need client, or sorry, would need write access to a global parameter space. Because that's what I think the full duplex communication is what is very scary about it. That differentiate.
Well, I don't like the leak that a read gives either.
There's something I think that currently in the design pattern in ROS I think is hard to avoid. Like we talked about the global clock topic and the TF topic. And I think those are admissible in that those can also be namespaced. Sometimes like people will have different TF topics if they're bandwidth constrained or have high frequency or something, or they're for static versus dynamic TFs. Clocks, I haven't seen any use cases where they have different clock topics. It's always just clock. But those are either only read, or the read and write are not usually required simultaneously. You might have like hardware drivers that are publishing TFs, and then you might have algorithm nodes that are subscribing to those TFs, but very rarely in case you have some kind of custom transformers of both reading and writing to the TF topics. So then those are usually okay, I would say. They still...
Yeah, and I wasn't. I think it's still not ideal, but I wasn't looking to get them to revisit that. That's. I mean, TF has been like that from the beginning,
Yeah.
So what do we? We're running a little low on time here. Do we? The topic has stalled a little bit. I think they're waiting for us to come back to them. Should we push towards having a private parameter events topic? Does that make sense?
I think so. I think I want to, something that I'm going to try and push is about the requirement that that a node has both server and client permissions to its own parameter services, and subsequently maybe read and write access to its own parameters events topic. If it was only read by default, like I could create a node and all it would require is read access, then I think that'd be a better situation.
Okay. Do you want to get back to that thread, or you want me to?
If you want to write something, we could sync.
Do it together. Okay.
matrix on what we want to say exactly. It'll be fine.
Okay, I'll put together a Google Doc then, and we can coordinate there. But yeah, I don't think they're going to make a change until we ask. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So let's do it. Okay, sorry everybody, we ran a little bit over, but any last minute things? We can kick my last agenda item to next meeting.
What's our next agenda items?
Oh, I just wanted to talk about how to get security more in the mindset of people that are developing features like this. You know, I feel like a lot of times here in the security working group, we're chasing things that already happened. You know what I mean?
There's a recent post on Hacker News about security mindset and how to teach it. I think I'll take that up and post that on the Matrix thread.
Yeah, please do. That would be interesting to read.
Why not just write a DDS worm that automatically redirects ROS to a page that we have that's teaching them about security? You've been hacked. Here's why.
We in ROS 1 we did have a couple of pen testing tools. It's the like ROS Chaos and whatnot. And so you'd run your system and then you'd run this node that was intentionally malicious and then just try and mess with your graph, like disconnecting topics. It was partly because it could control the master API, but I'm wondering if we could do something similarly.
Oh, that sounds really interesting. You should share a link to that as well.
Okay.
Cool. All right, everybody. I
It's
don't want
sort of like a security stress test application.
Sorry, go ahead, Jacob.
So that would be sort of like a security stress test application.
More like a fuzzing application, it sounds like at the DDS level.
Yeah, it was like a pen testing tool. You might like run against your own system.
Roger, do you think that this might be something that we would be interested in? It sounds interesting to me, but
I definitely think there's interesting stuff there. Hang on, okay. It's sometimes difficult to take some of these concepts and figure out how to apply them to the larger scope that I think that the GBSC stuff typically is on. But I'm still getting spun up on a lot of it. But yeah, I'm very interested in seeing how we can tie the stuff together.
yeah, because I'm currently part of the analysis team, and this sounds like something that would be very useful for us.
Well,
I think you're tied in better on that side than I am.
I'm sorry?
Just saying, I think you're tied in more to that side of things than I am personally. So you probably got a better perspective on it than I do.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if that's something you're thinking of taking on, Jacob, let's chat. Let's we can chat in Matrix and then maybe put a design together, see what it turns into on paper. At least see if it looks cool.
I'll have to first. I'll have to get on Matrix, and then I'll have to talk with my bosses and see what they think.
Yeah, fair enough. Keep us in the loop.
Will do.
Yeah, if you need any help getting hooked up in that group, let me know, and I can get you the links you need.
All right. Thank you very much.
The Matrix invites us also on the ROS index page for working groups, and you can find the Matrix community and rooms there.
All right. So I'll just get started with Matrix and kind of work my way over from there.
I just shared a link to the ROS security community page as well that has several links for communication channels, etc., including Matrix.
All right.
Okay. Well, thanks everybody for coming. It was a good conversation, and I hope you have a great week.
You as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.